Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. I'm Mario 2C, and this is your latest update coming from the Islamic Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The rise of Islamic death threats. Of course, the rise of Islam in general is no longer just a threat when it comes to the topic around Israel or the Middle East. It's actually about the West. It's actually about the conservative movement and the Christian community all around the world. In this video, we're going to give you guys the update on what's been going on over the last few days. We have a special guest, which I'm going to bring on in a couple of minutes. We have young Bob from Turning Point, who will be joining us to talk about his situation, because the rise of death threats against the Christian conservative-minded people, including myself, my good friend Nick Tenconi of UKIP, and now young Bob and many others, has become a bit of a concern because the police don't seem to care. The police don't seem to actually have any urgency to deal with this. I'm going to show you one example before we bring on young Bob. This is what happened a couple of days ago in Birmingham. We were there on the ground, of course. To young Bob, that man who hasn't showered, clearly, for a few days, with a big beard, the Islamic Santa essentially threatened young Bob, saying that, to the police, by the way, he will die because he basically criticized my prophet. Let's just go to that quickly.
I've already put the audio in.
The police don't care. Just standing there. Not only that, it gets worse than that. Not only that, they decided to arrest young Bob, who is still only 17, by the way, but apparently young Bob is more of a threat. He's so scary, oh yeah, compared to this Muslim Santa, and he's breaching the peace. The presence of young Bob is breaching the peace. The presence of Nick Tenconi in Sheffield or elsewhere, Southampton, we had the same problem, is breaching the peace. When we get death threats, they don't care. When we do our job, whether as reporters or whether as activists, well, we have to get arrested. Now, let me bring on the brilliant young Bob on the channel. Welcome to 2CTV. How are you?
Besides from the arrest, the constant death threats, it's all good and fun, you know. You kind of consent to it when you engage in this sort of work. Yeah,
so I'm going to talk about a couple of things. Obviously, as we say on the screen, that rapid rise of Islamism in Europe, because I think a lot of people have been talking about these things, but the grown-ups in the room, the establishment, didn't really do anything about it for years and years. One thing is about the political side. So what people like yourself do as part of Turning Point and Nick Tenconi and many others as well. We also have Tommy Robinson. And also culturally, the soul of our society. Because what is Britain at this point? If we say that England, the flag is St. George's flag, it's literally a cross, and the constitution is based on the Christian constitution, then why are we not actually practicing it when it comes to the political culture? So first things first, young Bob, tell us about this week, because you've been busy. You came to, obviously, Birmingham. We were there. Tell us what happened in Birmingham, and then tell us what happened, because you also went to Sheffield. So start with Birmingham, because you got a little bit assaulted and a little bit arrested.
Yeah, so like the first thing was that every single like news organization, activist was telling me, do not go to Birmingham. This is an insane idea. You're a maniac for suggesting otherwise. So, and I saw this on social media, a lot of flack saying, yeah, don't, you letting and enabling a 17-year-old to go out and do this is incredibly irresponsible. It was my irresponsibility. I purely just want to document these supposed no-go areas. It's not for the sake of likes, clicks, so on and so forth. I can do that elsewhere at places like Speaker's Corner. It's purely just to document there are areas in the UK that are literally a no-go zone, and it's legitimized by the police. I was underimpressed, only like 300 people. It was more of like a Palestinian festival for like the mentally delusional than like the 50,000 that Ahmed Yaqub was actually claiming on social media. So I arrived there an hour and a half before, And unlike other patriotic protests, when they enact sections to make sure that you are on time and leave out of time, they're allowed to set up hours before the planned match, and also when they were planning to start at 6 o'clock, which is again a bit too tierish in my eyes. And immediately going there, I was warned by the police that I was breaching a section because as I was filming Ahmed Yaqub's introductory statements, a white Antifa guy who is strangely in coalition with all these like Muslim sectarians started pushing me and calling me a Zionist, which is interesting because I've never really made my position on Israel so clear. So it just seems like they're looking at
you don't really talk about that, do you?
Talk about. So it's strange. It's like my affiliations have like flattered me with all these titles or things I've just never discussed about. So I was like, okay, I suppose so. Let's go with that. And then he was assaulting me. He pushed me a few times. And I do actually want to say that some of the community leaders, the ones who, of course, were the same ones that rioted in Whitechapel when UKIP tried to have a march down there, did try to stop because optically it didn't look great. However, the police and like breach of the peace is like a colloquialism now. It's like when the police can't get you or something or no one's reported, you would just say, oh, you've caused a breach of the peace. And sometimes it's quite like, doesn't really affect you because you're de-arrested if you're suspected of the crime as soon as the peace is restored. But they had a section 36, which was given by the commissioner, which states that you were not allowed within Birmingham for the entire 24-hour period if you are.
And your hotel as well, around your hotel.
Yeah, around my hotel. And I was like, man, I don't want to go through that. So I'll just argue I wasn't breaching the peace. I was invited beforehand as well to speak on stage with the Sheikh about Islam. And in fact, he's excluded that invitation on X. So hopefully I'll be able to debate with them in the university at some point. And yeah, I was like, you know what, I'll just take the arrest and see what happens. And the great thing, and I won't have this mentality coming out of adulthood, as you know, I'm only 17, because they couldn't find an appropriate adult. And they knew that my arrest got millions of views on X. They just immediately released me after 5 hours in the cell. However, interesting to note, the operation in Birmingham, there was 2 police stations. One was for the Palestinian supporters, and one was for the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. They originally sent me to the station used for the Palestinian supporters, and then they said, we have to move you because the Palestine supporters need interpreters on site, and this station is meant to have interpreters, so we can't have an English speaker be the only one who's arrested here because you're taking up too many resources. So I spent another hour in an unmarked vehicle traveling on the other side of Birmingham because they were afraid of a clog up of a police cell that needs interpreters because none of these people speak clear English.
Oh, okay.
And then on Sheffield, of course.
Yeah, Sheffield,
told, like, they're not welcome here. Sheffield's like a left-leaning area. What you find is like with post-industrial England, these areas need investment. They got it from universities. The Conservatives lost the universities. They've been made liberal crap holes. When UKIP threatened to march through there, because of course we saw that news story recently of the Lighten On festival not going ahead because it's like a Muslim majority run area. UKIP did a demonstration and the police literally had the mentality of like, do not make sure these people are welcome here ever again, so they do not do it. There was more police carriers in Sheffield than there was in Birmingham, as I counted, and they were kettled in for an hour with the refusal of women, children, and the elderly to leave to go to the toilet, which is hugely illegal.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, in terms of Birmingham, and actually, well, everything we've seen in London, Southampton, Sheffield, in Birmingham, we saw yourself, me, and the Tory MP, Nick Timothy. Same thing happened to the three of us. Nick, obviously, he behaved. Well, from the perspective of the police, but myself and you, we were warned that because obviously the other side was shouting at us, they were angry, so the police would come to us saying you're now in breach of peace, for example. They do it all the time. They want to take us away. They either say remove you, if not, we're gonna arrest you. And in your case, obviously, you got completely banned, so you got arrested. In my case, they moved me to a darker corner, which was more dangerous for me. But the point is that if they really care about breach of the peace, because as I said, it's not actually, that doesn't mean what it means. They should just say, okay, so this guy is actually, whether it's Nick Timothy, whether it's yourself or me, we are the calm ones. The other side shouting, they are the ones who are breaching the peace. Why is it that you've now, I know it's only been a short space of time, but you now have experience on the streets with the police. What do you think? Is it a command coming from the top, do you think, or is it just culturally they just see that way? It's some sort of, as the left would call it, subconscious bias that the police officers are biased. So is this an order, you think?
Yeah, so arrests in operations like this are authorized by commanders, sergeants, chief inspectors. So every arrest, every section is given by someone on the top. So I've been arrested 3 times. The first time I was arrested was at an abortion rally where I was filming Stand Up to Racism. And the detective handling my case was like fed up of dealing with all these like nonsense public order offenses. They want to be doing like something cool with their life, like drug busts. So they get fed up pretty quickly. It's like, imagine if you change the setting. It's no longer police, it's like a school child and it's a teacher. And another school child says to that teacher, "You're causing me alarm and distress." That they wouldn't do anything. They'll just say, "Shut up, behave, get along with one another." It's very like petty crimes you're suggesting these people are doing. And of course, now the process is the punishment. So they're DCs doing nothing the day before their bail, NFAing it. And it's an absolute waste of time and also duty of these officers. So the ones on the bottom, they're the ones that are screwed over. They're the ones that have to attend court, get cross-examined, waste their time investigating petty crime. And the
Yeah.
reason why people from the top are doing this is, firstly, they're retiring in like 5 years. They want that pension. They don't want to be controversial. They need to fluff up the numbers. They're mostly told from people even above them that, look, we need like this many amount of people arrested for racial hatred, so make it happen. So they just want their pensions. All of the sensible people in the police have left a long time ago. So you're
Yeah.
dealing with people of the left cloth or people who just want to retire and will listen to what the media complies with them. And speaking on Islam, whatever you want to call it, um, maybe they didn't realize and they were just too scared because, of course, it was only 300 people and they're expecting thousands. However, Islam is it's such a collected force. Like everyone from the mosque is going to go to a demonstration. They
Yeah.
know that they can't arrest one person, for example, the person threatening to kill me, because that would just cause a riot. But they can arrest me because the other people surrounding me, some of the independent journalists, some of the auditors, they will only scream "Free Young Bob" from the van that I'm arrested from, maybe report the officers, because we're not this militant force.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. Also, we talked about the police and the culture around the police. It's usually the senior side and the establishment. But let's talk about your opponents. Whether you talk about the political left and Antifa guys, stand up to racism, but also Islam and these Islamic sectarians. Isn't it interesting that Greta Thunberg, when she was a child, when she was under 18, she was treated as a saint. But also, you couldn't criticize her because they say, "Oh no, no, you're insulting a child." And she used to play that card all the time. You don't even actually play the card of, "Oh, I'm under 18." And in fact, a lot of people would just say, "Oh, he's an adult. Look, he's very grown up. He's very wise." But the same people who were saying that you can't criticize Greta because she was under 18 at the time, including that man, for example, and Antifa, they are coming to you saying all the sort of things that they want to say, send death threats, and sometimes assault you. What do you think of that?
Well, I've never really thought about it like that. I mean, I've been accused on Twitter because sometimes I'll just like 17-year-old. It's just like engagement farming. I always admit to that
Yeah.
because it's a good novelty to attach yourself to. However, I'm never going to excuse my behavior from my age. And
Yeah.
the reason being is like I am autistic, and I used to say this to a lot of autistic people that I worked with when I actually was employed, when I was employable. That as soon as you begin to notice that the behaviors that you exhibit are excusable because you have these things, it then becomes at a point where you've developed that it no longer excuses your behavior. So if I can begin to notice that, for example, my immaturity comes from the lack that I'm this age, I should begin to notice that how I can develop out of it so it's no longer excusable. And this is what Greta Thunberg, of course, obviously noticed because she used it to her advantage. I mean,
Yes.
she's not been doing too well, of course, being policed around by Israel because she decided that being an activist includes, trying to break a siege of war. However, it's just like, the left think through a racial lens, an age lens, a gender lens. They are literally a walking hashtag.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I mean, hypocrisy aside, I don't think they understand what they should fight you against. That's why, for example, they bring out the Israel debates. One day if you're asked, you might get involved with like, and I say, okay, this is my view on this. This is my view on that. But you're not even just, for example, focusing on, I don't know, conservatism in the UK. You have a higher goal, and as far as I know, you talk about the Christianity as well in terms of the soul of the West and the Western civilization, and of course the conservatism in the UK and everywhere else. And that's what I want to know about your background. How on earth did you become so nerdy to get involved in the first place? And how did you get involved? And what made you do all this stuff that you do? Why do you focus on these values?
Well, I'm a walking stereotype. I'm literally like a failed Republican. I was an ex-drama student, so coming out of a drama production company. I was incredibly lonely at that time in secondary school. And what does one do when you're socially unacceptable? You become a drama student. So I was doing drama for GCSE. I was involved in a lot of local productions. However, and this is quite coincidental as well, on the night that, and maybe you can find out what secondary school, I don't really care. I was hospitalized like 3 times in that secondary school, and they refused to do anything. I was passed out. People beat me up, used to strangle me until I was unconscious. Um, so I hated it there. However, there was a week in my secondary school where a boy unfortunately tried to unalive himself. I don't know what's social media acceptable language, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean from that. And it was the last production I would ever do. And it was just during Sunak's comments on there only being two genders. And I was kind of putting my two piece on a social media group chat, just like not even directly challenging the fact that some of these people were like victimizing themselves, like, oh, I'm trans, I can't believe you said this. I was like, well, some of these people say these things because of X, Y, and Z. And because of those comments, the last night that they knew they would ever see me, because this was the last show I ever did, they told me unilaterally to go kill myself, that I am friendless, started sharing messages and pictures that people were sending behind my back. And considering I was a man that literally had nothing, I was extremely suicidal at that age and point in my life. I will admit that. Um, I was like, you can't really be diplomatic with these people. So throughout the summer, I was kind of invested in religion, not through like a spiritual lens, but although that ended up being the case, I was very much, wanting something meaningful in my life. But just purely from debates, social media and the algorithm pushed out a lot of academic discussions surrounding religion, and I kind of got involved in there. And then I found Speaker's Corner. I one day with my dad went out, had a discussion with someone, knew that I'd get wrecked if I keep on coming here, spent like maybe 6 months studying properly on the internet from other people, doctors in their religion. People have doctorates in religion, able to like get scans of ancient Greek texts and Arabic texts for Islam and Christianity. And I was invested from there. And then from Speaker's Corner, I was able to learn that Islam is a religion that you can't be diplomatic with. And you asked me when I actually preach. I think the reason why I'm so diverse in what I talk about is because I am just someone who just wants to live my life in a certain way. And if someone has a problem with that, I'll challenge them on it and debate them. That's why I'm quite universal in what I teach, especially with young people as well. We all saw the pictures at Youth Parliament. I'm tempted to stand there myself next year and engage in some discussions there. Um, there's such a, and Elon Musk said woke mind virus. I know it's quite of a small and little term, but I genuinely think it's a very apt way of describing it. It's like this absolutist, like Marxist understanding of history, that we must progress in this extreme way of looking at everyone through their race, gender.
Yeah.
And then if you're not involved and indoctrinated in this way, you're indoctrinated into Islam because you think it's popular through social media. So my main drive is towards young people being able to live their lives as conservatives. I mean, of course, prevent is a massive thing within anyone's life if you're young. This year's prevent numbers just came out, and there's actually, in the first time in any prevent numbers, far right extremism is higher than Islamic terrorism, and that's what they've wanted for years, because the
Yeah.
right always used those figures against them, and they wanted to fluff up what it means to be a far right extremist.
Yeah.
So they've always lowered the threshold every single year. I mean, I got deferred to prevent because a Muslim student beat me up at college because he used the fact that I had a Quran under my waist, which of course is against their religion, and because I had a messenger bag on, and the fact that I was critiquing his prophet in a very, it
Yeah.
was actually a very nice way originally when I was in
Mm.
college, to be fair, because I wanted to be nice with these people. But it's the whole point is that Islam and the woke left are undiplomatic when it comes to the way that the conservatives are able to live their life. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
fully convicted. And then going in Speaker's Corner, learning Christianity, I was then
Mm.
able to coincidentally just randomly meet Nick Tenconi at a Disciples of Christ demo. And then from there, he introduced me to Turning Point. I was able to be the youth ambassador, kind of doing youth outreach, doing campus debates. I think the thing that really bigged me up was one debate I had with the professor of philosophy at Sussex University, and the same week that they had to pay out nearly £1 million to another professor because she got essentially kicked out and bullied by Antifa because she said that you should
Mm.
eradicate transgenderism from
Yeah.
education. So from there, I've just been continuing going. We just started a few chapters that
Mm.
are being gratified in universities. I'm very passionate in trying to adopt this American-esque model of debate stands. I think there's a real appetite for it now, especially considering everyone's an activist. Everyone's
Yeah.
wanting to know why people believe in what they believe. Of course, you saw that in the
Yep.
streets of Birmingham. You see that with every stand up to racism demo. There's a real
Mm.
divide where we used to be very private as British citizens. Like, we never used to talk about politics. Being a
Yeah.
journalist was never discussed. Being an activist was sort of this taboo concept. Um, so I think
But
there's a huge, and the Greens are going to win through young people. So I just want to sort that out.
yes, yes, that's the thing. I mean, speaking of young people and turning points, back then I think it was about 7 years ago, 8 years
It would have been
ago.
sick.
Well, 7, 8 years ago, when my good friend at the time, Charlie Kirk, came to London and helped set up Turning Point, and with a few of our friends. And even at the time, Turning Point USA was, it's still early days, but not. I mean, they were thriving, but early days. And a lot of people thought, well, what's the point of it? You know, are we just Americanizing British politics? But actually, there was a need for some sort of student movement, because at the time the Tory party, which was the only Conservative party technically speaking, the youth wing of the Tory party collapsed post 2015, and Charlie's help with Turning Point UK did work. But then obviously everybody got distracted with everything else happened with COVID and all that nonsense. Uh, but now obviously you have a plan, right, in terms of universities and colleges. By the way, guys, I'm going to get your reaction. If you have any questions for Young Bob, let me know in the live chat, especially the super chats. But yeah, so what is the plan for universities or students?
Yeah. So firstly, it's just setting everything up. So you gratify a chapter of a university through getting signatures, then it being approved. So the first stepping stone we have is once we get the signatures, what are the universities going to say? So we have many chapters already set up, but they're not gratified, which means they don't have the ability to invite us on campus. So what I've done is just quite in an annoying way, just like plant myself just outside the entrance of them because you get the best of both worlds. You get some people passing by, and you also get all the university students entering. However, the fight is mostly going to be so we're going to transition the protests from being not just on the street, it's going to be at these universities. Hopefully, it'll intimidate them to accept their applications because typically they don't because they see us as far right.
Yeah.
Then it's a matter of setting up speaking events, tours. I really am passionate to set up a Turning Point UK action, which of course is what they do in the States where they encourage young people to go out and vote. Because my suspicion is that the left are going to cause some sort of coalition coming into 29 to say, look, we want anyone but reform. Get the Greens, your party, the Labour will all tactically vote in each constituency to get reform out. So I want a similar thing with reform, the Conservatives, potentially Advance, potentially UKIP, tactically vote in each constituency to receive the maximum amount of result. Because the biggest thing in British politics, and the reason why Turning Point UK hasn't been so successful, is because Charlie could literally fight for the Republican Party, right?
Yeah.
Um, who are we going to back? Are we going to be backing the Conservatives? Are we going to be backing Reform? It's always this fragmentation in British politics that has always been our downfall. So my year plan, as it were, is to get inside universities, do stands. If not, we'll do it outside and protest them. Set up Turning Point UK action, which would be great. I already did a partner organization, which is Cross and Corner, an organization I
Yep.
own, which is more of the Christian aspect, talking about things that aren't so popular because they're Christian and not really conservative, like abortion. Because those are always good fun discussions, especially in Camden Town. So we'll be also doing tours with Cross and Corner, speaking on Christian topics, and also making sure that it's not just myself, Jack, Nick. We need to expand the Turning Point UK team to as many young people as humanly possible. That's the good thing with Turning Point USA, is that immediately after the unfortunate passing of Charlie, you still see pictures from Turning Point USA action of so many more young people, in, preaching the word, keep on voting, using the organization to its best of its ability. So kind of copying their model, but in a British way.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, exactly. I'm going to get some quick questions from the live chats and also some comments in general. Ivan says, and the police had the cheek to take part in the Remembrance Day parade. It boils my blood. Yeah. I remember last year, was it last year or 2 years ago? There was a group of British patriots also just marching very peacefully for that day, and then the police brought out the police horses and the riot gear. That was fun. So Margaret says the Western world needs more youngsters like young Bob. Bob, you put the majority of the Western youngsters to shame. Caps off to you. What's going to happen when you're no longer young? What are you going to call yourself?
I mean, hopefully, once I professionalize myself in terms of the political and journalistic front, hopefully people won't just be referring to me as Young Bob. So
Yeah.
maybe just going for my real name. I'm very confident in saying my real name, Thomas Moffat. It's something where, like, if you don't post your real name, we live in a surveillance state. I have your face, I have your name. They'll just use it against you to kind of make you scared. So, I'll just
Yeah.
go towards my real name at some point.
Brilliant. Good idea. And there is a couple of questions about what you do. Free Seat Film says, what is Cross and Corner?
Yeah, so it is the more Christian centric version of essentially Turning Point, focusing more on Christianity. I certainly think that the Overton window, thanks to reform, has been more shifted towards
Yeah.
conservatism. So just Christianity being this material grounding for many young people, like you see with a lot of the like F Nazis or whatever you want to call them, that a lot of them do turn out to be, unfortunately, like really gay. So trying to get them on more of the Christian path would be the best solution in my personal eyes.
I love that. Ivan says, Bob gives me hope for the future. And it's just Bobby, keep pushing my friend. Amazing. And Coffee says, I see young Bob as the future MP of the people, or PM. Would you like to get into frontline politics?
So the thing is, like the current youngest MP is for Labour, and I think he's 22, 21, if I'm not mistaken.
What?
And
Oh, yes, the young guy. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the big forehead one. The unfortunate thing with him is just that people like young people, they're just used as like token young people for political parties, and
Yep.
they're purely just used to push we're the party of the young people, and they're used as like a cleanser for their image, and they'll be put on the back benches. Their whips will tell them how to vote. So it really depends. You have to look towards more 27, 28, because of course I'll be able to actually stand at that point. Whether what party would take me, considering what I do, what would I be
None of
able?
them.
Yeah, none of them. Would I have the prospects of winning, and would me being an activist or a journalist or whatever be more to my success than standing as an MP?
Yeah, exactly. That's why at some point when I was still in politics, I decided to stay outside the tent because unless you want to play the game, I don't have the patience for that. And John says, question, was Jan Bob banned temporarily or for eternity from Speaker's Corner? What happened there?
So, yeah, I was arrested once for asking a Muslim about a sex scandal he was embroiled in. Like, I just went up to him. It's like, so, hey, man, like, I see that you're friends with someone who allegedly um, had a secret second wife and abused him at a hotel. And of course, this is the same hijab that tried to sue Douglas Murray, so you have to be very
Yeah,
careful with your legal
I,
language.
I know who
Uh,
you're talking about. Yeah.
yes, yes. Then the Muslim police officer, and I know he's Muslim because someone contacted me with his badge number and showed me video footage of him harassing a Christian at their door for hate speech and some of the things that he was accusing me of.
Yeah.
So he grabs me. He's like, as soon as this Muslim says, "Oh, I don't want to speak to you. You're causing me alarm and distress," and the Muslims now at Speaker's Corner begin to realize that they're using the same lingo that stand up to racism do. You're causing me alarm and distress. You're harassing me. And then because Royal Park legislation literally states that the police have the authority to ban you for up to 6 months for no reason whatsoever, they literally grabbed me. I refused to leave. There's a really good picture of him just like shouting at me as I'm getting grabbed away. Um, for no reason, just for posing a question. So I was banned for the day, and that was the same day that I decided to do some other things I won't really go into
Yeah.
near where they pray.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. A question from 2CTV's Niak Korbani. In Iran, of course, the Christian community are getting completely destroyed by the Islamic Republic, and there's a campaign that's now worldwide. They are basically attacking the posters and pictures of the Supreme Leader Khamenei, and Niak is asking if you would get involved in that campaign as well. Stand up for Christians in
I
Iran.
mean, yeah, like I would stand up for Christians anywhere. Unfortunately, it's incredibly difficult to get information and also start campaigns for other countries that have
Yes, yes,
So,
yes, true.
if
Yep,
you don't meet the
yep,
token like cleanser card, no one's going to help you.
yep,
So
yep.
I'll most definitely, if anyone invited me to help, I would.
Yep, I think they're burning the pictures of the Khamenei now. So I think that's what they're up to these days. Anyway, we have someone saying I am Christian and get violence from Muslims each day. Only they know I love Jesus. I'm a target, but will never bow for evil. Only Jesus. Are you scared about the not just a change in demographic? A change in demographic is resulting in change of culture and values. Are you kind of pessimistic when it comes to the future of the UK and Europe?
I'm more pessimistic of what we're going to do about it. Like a lot of the times, it's not just like industrial-sized deportations because that's a bit more expensive and difficult to do. It's more just like whether we're going to have kids to outbreed these people. And maybe I'm not the poster boy for deportations, but certainly I could be the poster boy for these family
Babies?
values. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you said that the first time I ever really saw you was at the United Kingdom, one of them, where you literally said, "I hope you're having children," and that's true. You need to outbreed these people because at some point you're going to replace the population with a bunch of inbred foreigners who don't really
Yeah.
share in the same values as us.
Yes, I did make a mistake because that was about 2 years ago, I think, a year and a half ago when I made that speech in London saying the change in demographic, British Christians stop having babies. And since then, everybody was like, when are you having babies? I was like, for God's sake. So I got married and we're now working on it. But yeah, come on, guys. Um, I'm trying.
You know, a
Anyway,
guy called Young Juicy on the way, man.
mini 2CTVs, come on. Then we could start up the kids show on 2CTV as well. Use them as child actors. It's very Disney. That's not good. All right. Run for MP, Young Bob, someone says. And back you all the way, Young Bob. Jesus, keep you safe. And speaking of safe, last question is are you safe? What's going on with you right now with everything that's been happening? What you went through, obviously, in terms of personal life, family life, but also just basic safety. What can you just walk around?
Yeah, so like 2C has hired a hitman right next to me. So if I don't answer the questions in a 2C TV compliant way, I'm gonna have my brains on camera right now. But besides from that, yeah, it was quite funny. Everyone keeps on asking me about my housing situation. So what has essentially happened? The second time I got arrested, it was a bit more serious because they actually accused me of some serious crimes, and they did actually try to charge me, and they put me on curfew. And when you get put on curfew, you have to have an address. Now, I was insisting that this address be where I was currently staying outside of my parents' house. However, the police, knowing my situation, decided to put it at my parents' address, in which that was very awkward. I had to plead with everyone, like, please let me in or I'll be arrested the next day. So it's been resolved now. Of course, I did it out. I originally posted it. I've always been against people posting their personal life. I mean, I've had a partner for about a year now, and talking about preaching about like having children and stuff. And I never post about her family, even church. I'm never like this type of person to take a picture of what church I go to, whatever, because that would just scandalize them even more. So
Yeah.
yeah, my homeless situation has relatively been resolved. Security is just what I'm doing. If I do a stand, I force myself to have security. If I'm doing a protest, it's more of just like, yeah, it would be fun to like film these people attacking me just for the sake of documenting it, because I think what is very valuable in the stuff that I do outside of debates is just not for doing it for clicks and views, but purely just demonstrating. Like, for example, in Antifa in the States, we know
Yeah.
that they're incredibly violent. But in the UK, we don't know that because everyone's been incredibly scared to document what actually happens if you just go out there. So that's a bit different there. In terms of police, it used to be the case with like people like Tommy Robinson, right? You have one person out of a million talking about against Islam, doing protests, doing documentaries, kind of unraveling the establishment, as it were. But now you have millions of people, thousands of people weekly outside a migrant hotel protests talking out about these stuff. So you can't, on an industrial scale, put people in a prison cell. So what they do is they have a big operation where they put you on bail, impose bail conditions to stop you what you're doing, and ensure that you are out of work for a few months.
Yes, yes, and also in terms of your future and everything else, a lot of people obviously are concerned, but we are going to be in conversations, 2CTV and Young Bob, to perhaps utilize him and for the channel, but also for the
That's
movement in
grooming.
general.
That's grooming, man. That's
Yeah,
grooming, TC.
I'm going to wait a few more months, don't worry. And then, of course, then we'll also be supporting you with
As soon as
everything
I
you do.
turn 18, all these agencies are going to be on me. It's going to be crazy. Like my DM, but you know what? I might actually just do like it would be good to do a charity event for when I turn 18. Book a venue. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
No, we could
Then as
turn
soon
your
as-
18th birthday. 18th birthday could be a rally. And then obviously everyone could come. They could pay for tickets. And then we'll also announce that you're going to be the new presenter of 2CTV. So it's fun.
Yeah. I'll set up a queue for these agencies that want me to work for them, and they've got to sign like stupid contracts with an exorbitant amount of money.
And last one is Barry saying, what's Young Bob's secret to keeping calm?
Have the fear of God in you and a fear of cameras that surround you, and not wanting to be scandalous. Also, just like deal with these people on a regular basis, and you become so immune to it. So I know that the reason why these people are like this is because most of them are inbred, illiterate, uneducated, and deeply broken inside. So if I know I'm dealing with this sort of person and not like an absolute thug, it's like, okay, I'm dealing with this like fat Arab guy who's got a beard, who's shouting that he wants to unalive me. It's like really, really threatening. Yeah, you're telling this to a 17-year-old. What a waste of your time.
Oh my God. Well, on that lovely note, thank you so much for coming on 2CTV. And obviously, we're going to keep an eye on you, on everything that you do. Basically, we're going to stalk you around to keep you safe, because until now, you've had Emma Donwell as your security, which is not really safe. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, 2C's better, isn't he? I'll just
run away.
sacrifice you when they come for me.
Exactly. Anyway, thank
talks
you
about
so
Israel more.
much.
Grab him.
That's true. I'm more of a Zionist. Anyway, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.